Alright guys, I'm going to do a few examples with you just to make sure that you know how to do these. Let me take the freeze off and let me grab my answer key real quick. Alright, so we did some of this practice in class today to help with the worksheet that is due on Monday. So when you're adding and subtracting significant figures, you are going to look at place value. It's a little bit different than when you're multiplying and dividing. So look at your place value. Go with lowest place value, and I'll show you what that means. Alright, so if you were to plug all this into your calculator, it would give you 23.16. So if I'm looking at place value though, I can see where this ends in the hundredths, this ends in the tenths or the hundredths. So I'm going to go with the lowest place value, which is the tenths. So my answer is going to end in the tenths. Now I need to round. So that 6 will round that up to a 2. So the correct answer is 23.2. For number 2, I have a typo here. This should be a plus sign. If you were to add these two numbers up, you get 44.821. That's what the calculator would tell you. Now, if I'm looking at place value, I have thousands versus tenths. So my answer is going to end in the tenths, the lowest one. That 2 keeps that at an 8, so it's 44.8. On number 3, when I subtract these numbers, I would get 40.94. Now I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, so if you want to see if you can do it without seeing my answer, just pause the video and then try it, and then you can play it again to see what the answer is. I'll kind of give it a little pause there. But it's 40.94 if you were to subtract all these. If I'm looking at place value, I have hundredths, I have the 1 spot, and I have the tenths. The 1 spot is the lowest one, so I'm going to end in my 1 spot. Now that 9 will round that up, so my answer is 41. Okay, so this all deals with our measurements more precise than our answer. Is our answer more precise than our measurements? Because we can't have that happen. I cannot measure something and only measure to the tenths place, but then give somebody an answer that's in the hundredths, because my measurements were never that precise. All right, so number 4, we have, when you add all this up, it is 1.0609. And if I'm looking at this, I have the thousandths, the 10,000ths, and the hundredths. So I'm going to end my answer in the hundredths, the smallest place value. That will keep that at a 6. So 1.06 is my answer. All right, on number 5, when you add all of these together, your answer is just 6. So if you look though at the place value, so if you want to pause it here, you can try it out. We end in the hundredths, tenths, and the thousands. So my answer needs to end in the tenths. Well, I just am in the 1 spot right now. So to get to the tenths, I'm just going to put a point and a 0. So my answer should really be 6.0 instead of just 6. So I'm telling people that my answer is that precise. It's not just 6 and I don't know anything beyond that. I'm telling you I know it's exactly 6.0. All right? So that is adding and subtracting. You're going to look at place value for both of those. Now when you're doing multiplying and division, it's got its own set of rules. Here you are going to count the number, and I'm just going to put SF, count number of significant figures, and then you're going to use the smallest one. So I'm going to show you what that means. So if I were to take 10.55 and multiply by 4.3, my answer would be 45.365. Now counting the number of significant figures, 10.55 has 4, because that 0 is sandwiched in, so that 0 counts, because it's really the zeros that we have to figure out if do they count or not. 4.3 has 2 significant figures. I'm going to use the smallest one, which is 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and And that 3 is going to keep that at a 5. So it's really, my answer should be 45. Once again, it's all about, my answer cannot be more precise than a measurement. Now on 7, when I plug this into the calculator, you get 0.5. Now this has 2 significant figures and this one has 3. So I need 2 significant figures. To do that, I'm just going to add a 0 to the end there to get 0.50. On number 8, if you do this, you plug it into the calculator will give you that answer, 1,000. Now 10.0 has 3 significant figures, 100 only has 1. Now if the 100 looked like this with a decimal, that tells you I measured exactly 100, it would have 3. But there is no decimal, so it's only 1. So my answer can only have 1, and right now it does, it just has 1. That 1 is the only significant figure. Now if I write 1,000 decimal, that would be 4 significant figures. But that is not what I need. Alright, number 9. When you divide these numbers, you get 9.220095. 5.236 has 4 significant, and this one has 5 significant figures. So I want 4 in my answer. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. That 0 is going to keep that at a 0, so my answer should be 9.220 for my final answer. And then finally, I put this one on here on purpose. When you multiply anything by 1, it's going to give you the same thing. So 5.236. Now this has 4 significant. This one has 2 because of that decimal. 1.0 is going to be 2 significant. If there's a decimal there, then the zeros count at the end. So I want 1, 2. So my answer is going to be 5.2, right? Because that 3 keeps that at a 2 when we're rounding. So 5.2. So that's how you do your multiplication and division. Now, real quick, something we didn't see in here is if I have something like this, these beginning zeros are not significant. They're just placeholders. So this would only have 2 significant figures. I didn't have any on here like that, so I wanted to make sure we went over that beginning zeros do not count. And something else that I've seen here the past day is if I have 0.00, kids think that it's just that beginning 0, that these count. These do not. Beginning zeros never count. Another one I have seen is if I've seen 1.001, or let's just change that, 10.001, they're still thinking that this 0 does not count, but it does. 10.001, these are all sandwiched in, so they all count. There would be 5 significant figures there. So anyways, that is the worksheet we went over today. It should help you for the worksheet that you have, that you're getting tomorrow, that will be due on Monday. Let me know if you need anything. I'll be here all day tomorrow. You guys can always get a hold of me, come up here if you need to, whatever you want. So let me know if you need anything.